Pentakill. Welcome.
Hello and welcome to episode 59 of the OzLoL podcast. My name's Carrot Colossus. I am the host of the show, and we've got a week of excellent discussion to be had. We're going to be talking about Worlds, with the World Final being just going yesterday. We've got CGPL LAN Finals to talk about, and we're going to talk a bit about previews for this weekend's Auckland Armageddon. And to help you with that, I have two gentlemen to assist. The returning, victorious from New York, Stephen Garstone.
I just noticed that you've called the episode "Return of the Senpai" on Twitch.
Yes, that's in tribute to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be back.
I'd
rather still be in New York, but it's
it's good to know you're second.
I missed you guys.
That's good. That's good. And joining us once again this week is Scott Ranconius Rankin.
What's up, guys?
Excellent.
Elfish guys in the chat. Here we go.
Is he? Oh, okay. Actually, I need to bring my chat up. All right. And Cyanide's there too. Shout out to you guys. All right. So, we are live on this channel, twitch.tv/TForce Podcast from Mondays. But around 8 p.m. we start a little bit later than normal, which is my bad. It's for not being organised. But yes, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. We're on this channel. So make sure you follow us. And then you'll also know about the Oceanic Battle Arena, which is Thursdays from around about 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, which is open for bronze to gold. And it's an opportunity for you to get better at this game. And the shoutcasters, which will include the returning Stephen Garstone, hopefully, will be talk about how you can get better at the game, and we'll give you tips and strategies on how to improve your skills. And we also try to have a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to it. I have missed casting those games, and I've had a couple of tweets from a few community members saying that they miss me, and they're happy to have me back on any time. So.
They're just sick of the awkward silence that comes after my complete inability to actually say anything constructive. So, it'd be good to have some actual active discussion in there.
I've only been home for like a 20-hour period or something, so I haven't actually had a chance to go back and watch any VODs or something since I got back. So, I will critique you.
Sure. Maybe we could have a week of that, of just you critiquing me on stream for my analysis of the game.
It's like, wow, you're really dull, man.
Yeah, it'll be a bit meta, a bit inside baseball, but anyway.
Well, now that Worlds is over, I'm going to have a lot less pro games that I'm going to be watching every week, so I might actually have some time to go back over the last few weeks worth of stuff and catch up.
Ooh.
So maybe between games you can give your analysis of the previous weeks in catch up. That's a good way of filling in the time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you should check out our website, ozlol.trinityforcepodcast.com, where we have all our previous episodes. We have our social media links. We also have a donate button, and you should donate to us because we are working towards improving all aspects of this show, and that requires money. So please do that. We also, I mentioned Battle Arena, and that's pretty much it for the news. All right, well, let's talk about the interesting stuff. Worlds Grand Final yesterday in the World Cup Stadium in Seoul in South Korea, and it was a huge event between Samsung White and Starhorn Royal Club, and of course there's going to be spoilers we can't really talk about without spoiling the heck out of it, so just be prepared for that. And the winner,
I can't even imagine a conversation. It's like, oh yeah, Worlds was on yesterday, and one of the teams actually won.
Yeah.
They played champions and they did things.
Yeah.
There was this moment where they did this thing and it was really good.
There was these team fights and these turrets went down, and
at some point the jungler used smite. It was great.
Yeah. Wow, that's riveting analysis. See, that's why you come to us to get the best analysis without spoilers. So the winner was Samsung White, which I know Steve will be very happy about since he's a proud Samsung fan of all sorts.
Indeed. And a Samsung White fan specifically as well. Because
I think
I always thought that White was the better team, even back when they were Ozone. So very cool.
And they beat Royal Club 3-1.
I'm 0-3 now for predictions.
So the whitewash was denied. So let's talk about it. So, I mean, the
The
basic...
whitewash was given away.
I actually forgot to mention Ralph, by the way, if you're wondering, Ralph in the corner. He's not with us because he's currently in the Cocos Islands, so that guy's a jerk, and we got rid of him. Anyways, 3-1. Let's talk about the games. I mean, probably this... If you actually want to check out quite a funny summary of the games, Black and Ola has done a TLDW of the Worlds. It goes for about 2 minutes and pretty much sums up the game. So if you really, really haven't actually watched them and you want to catch up before we discuss it, actually go watch it now. Like, yeah, we're going to be talking about this for a while. So you better come back and join us and you'll be all up to date. So the TLDW is 2 stomps, game 1 and 2, Star for Samsung White. Royal Club stomped in game 3, and then it was a little bit closer for a little while, and then Samsung took it home. So, what do you guys think? What were your reactions to the games?
Well, before the actual games, of
course, yeah, we should talk about that. Stuff. Yeah, let's talk about pre-game stuff.
The pre-game discussion, it was almost every single person on the analysis desk, every single caster was basically saying, no one's expecting Royal Club to win this. Everyone's expecting Samsung to take it out. Whereas when we were watching the Samsung versus Samsung in the semifinals, that wasn't what they were saying at all. They're like, oh, White's been looking really strong, but, Samsung Blue have always been able to beat them when it comes to these kinds of scenarios, and it's all going to come to... so they made a massive deal about Samsung versus Samsung, but in the actual finals, they were like, well, if they can take a game, I guess, that's... what was it? Jat at one point said, no one thought they'd be able to take a game off them, so the impossible has already happened. And I'm like, okay then, that's a way to hype me up for this.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
It's gonna watch 3 stomps? No, it wasn't.
Yeah. Which was good, because last year was like totally anticlimactic because of the stomps. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that that has a lot to do with the fact of the way that group stages work in general. Like, if you've got 3 strong teams in one group and 2 weak teams in another, and blah, blah, like if you divvy it up the way that it was done, then it's going to be, the semifinal or the quarterfinal could have the 2 best teams, but because it's not like double elimination, you don't actually get to see the 2 best teams fight in the finals, which was the case with CGPL and the round of 8 and all that sort of stuff. Well, I suppose round of 8 was, but yeah. So I do think that Samsung Blue versus Samsung White was they were the matches to watch. They were the 2 teams, but having
said that, Samsung Blue didn't take a game off White, so
Royal
Club actually did. So
yeah. No, if you wanted to watch Samsung versus Samsung, you can just watch OGN as well. So yeah. We're here to watch, the best teams in the world fight on the global stage and everything, and we got to see that. I really like the games. I think it should have been a 3-0. I think picking Fizz and Singed on the same team composition, that was game 3, the one that Samsung White lost. They picked Singed as their last pick, and they picked it against Braum, which is very strange because everyone knows Singed is the guy who runs around, and if you chase him, you die. But Braum, all he needs to do is hit with 1 Q, and Singed just falls over. And Fizz has absolutely no synergy with Singed whatsoever. They both have a dot, but one's a very, very small dot.
It's identical.
One's burst, one's prolonged team fighting, or not even team fighting, split pushing. Like, it was very little synergy coming from Samsung's team composition, and I think that's the entire reason that they lost that second game.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be said that the only 2 games that they lost at Worlds, they sandbagged themselves in Champion Select. That was Worlds in a nutshell. It was the Samsung White show, and we got to see the Samsung White show. Other than that, yeah, I definitely felt like we did see some really, really fantastic stuff from Starhorn Royal Club against OMG, and they tried to bring it to the table. I think they should have banned out Jace. Jace was just up too often and picked away and just made too much of an impact in the games. He just needed to, I think, especially with what we saw from Samsung White versus Samsung Blue and OMG versus Starhorn Royal Club, we needed to see a Jace ban. I don't think it needed to get through picks and bans ever. And if it did, it was always pretty much going to go over to Samsung White. They would have always found a way to work their draft around to get Jace better.
I think game 4, Royal Club managed to get a hold of Jace, but it was too late by then, I think.
Yeah, it was.
It's now just like didn't the group stages, did Jace even really appear? Because it seems like just the finals, and particularly like just the last 2 weeks, Jace has come out of nowhere to be like this top tier ban. A bit like, I guess, Janna at the start of the world. Like, Janna was nowhere, and then all of a sudden she's everywhere, and she's she's like basically the MVP champion of Worlds. So was Jace? I can't remember if Jace was really a factor in the earlier stages of Worlds.
He was picked. He was picked a couple of times in the OGN finals, like in the build up to that, and then he made like 1 or 2 appearances in the early group stages. I think in several groups he showed up, but he wasn't making big swings. I hope I'm remembering right. It's been a while.
Big swings, hammer. Get it? Get it? DeClaude, where are you?
That's my kind of thing, and I'm even shocking away at that one.
Yeah, but it's indicative of how the metagame shifts. Like, as like Carrot and you and I, we've discussed over the last couple of months how they're just trimming champions here, trimming champions there, nerfing this champion, buffing this champion, trying to get everything to the right spot. And remember, like ages ago, we were talking about how overpowered Renekton was, and they only like changed him slightly, but it was enough that the play style and the way that the metagame was working, other champions came to take their place, like Maokai getting buffed, Lulu's move speed buff and all that. Like every one of these little changes set in motion like kind of a tier list of power. And like Lulu and like all of these champions, one after the other, this one's the most powerful. If we don't get him, we get him. If we ban this, then we go this. And if you look at the OGN finals, and every game up until then was like about 30 to 40 champions primarily that were picked, and then occasionally kind of one from left field. But once we got into the group stages, and once they stopped patching, then people were able to pick champions that worked with particular strategy or against particular strategy. It wasn't, this champion's the most powerful, so we need to pick it. There were some examples of that happening still, like Jace, for example. But Jace hasn't, like, I wouldn't go out and say that Jace is overpowered, but he's very good at dealing with the amount of priority that players are putting on Dragon, the amount of pushing and everything like that. The sort of meta that when Ziggs was possible, he was very good at causing. Jace is very good at shutting down now that they've changed it. So it's kind of a natural progression of people picking champions and playing certain ways to deal with the new playstyles that have emerged.
Yep, I'm definitely going to have to agree, but it's for me, it's an interesting curve. Look at what's happened throughout the season. Think back right at the start of the season, we had all the Shyvana, we had all the Mundo play. We saw a huge amount of Lulu play. We're seeing all these champions with move speed buffs coming back and coming through. So it's literally just been the season of move speed. So that's just been phenomenal, actually. The amount of priority that's been placed on move speed. So I wonder what it's going to be next season. That's got me all tizzled up, but especially with some of the jungle changes that they are trying to apply on the beta at the moment, I am extremely excited to see what the mechanic is of the season. Well, you made some good points on... oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you play the episode from last year, when we were talking about all the other changes that they did, like with the new jungle items and everything, it was Papa Smithy and I were basically like, this is the time to live for an analysis guy, for anyone who's looking at this stuff, because there's absolutely no way you can predict the way it's going to go. Like, if someone says, anyone who does physical damage in the jungle is going to be 100% better, then obviously you can predict that physical damage champions are going to be stronger in the jungle, and then you can say, well, Yi, Tryndamere, you could just list off a bunch of options. But the changes are so widespread, the changes to Dragon, everything. It's again, we're in that complete uncertainty period where people are just going to be picking what they like, and or picking what they think's strong, and then finding out that it's not.
My favorite part of the season. It's fantastic.
Just the complete randomness that you see in Champ Select and
yeah, I don't know. Building. Like, analysis at this time of the year, who last year could have said that Shyvana was ever going to come back into the meta? That was just something that was off the wall. I think Riot was even potentially considering her on the back door as actually one for a remake, maybe a year and a half down the track, just because she was in that sort of slot of unusability, and all of a sudden she comes through. So Poppy's got a rework in the book.
Well,
she's
Poppy
been played. She could be the thing next season. I'm starting to work on my Poppy now.
Get to work.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will actually figure out how to use Sion's ult, and then Sion will actually come back in a big way. I actually think there is a use of Sion's ult. Like, even though people have been basically since he's come out bagging on how hard it is to aim, I actually legitimately think that you can use it for a zoning effect. That is, you charge down an area, they can't be in that area, so then you start laying on, like you think about a Leona, if they go to dodge, you're going down, basically take up half a lane, then you just go, okay, so like a solar flare on the other half of the lane, and then all of a sudden you've locked up the whole team, and then you just pile in, and so I actually think legitimately Side might have a place in some
make a good point.
But
if he does miss the ultimate,
I really
want to
see
your backline.
With in relation to Sion's ult, I really want to see him like an entire team get ace, the other team run to Baron, Sion respawn and then contest Baron. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
That's his perfect scenario.
It's like it's revive teleport, but in an ultimate.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Anyway, let's go back to Worlds itself, the final.
Where Sion did not make an appearance.
Yeah, where Sion definitely did not make an appearance. Let's talk about the presentation side of things, because Stevie touched on it briefly, but what do we actually think of the spectacle? Because last year we had the awesomeness of Cello Chick and Wes Borland from Limp Bizkit, which was and the Crystal Method. Who actually, I actually thought the musical side of, like, apart from the random chick that came on stage, I thought the musical aspect of it was really good, and the fact, it was an indoor stadium, and it went, the good use of light and all of that. So I thought that was really great.
Oh yeah.
This year, I think some of the atmosphere was taken away because it was late afternoon in like an open stadium, like an outdoor stadium, so it didn't have that sort of, they couldn't turn down the lights and just have this awesome video presentation. But certainly having music after was really great. Like, I thought, all the taiko drums, apart from reminding me of the taiko drum game in Japan, which is just awesome fun. If you ever go to Japan, you need to play the taiko drum game. It's like awesome. It just kind of didn't quite hit the mark in the same way. You had OG and Hype Guy, and OG and Hype Guy is probably better than Cello Chick on the balance probabilities. But what do you guys reckon?
Week, Carrot Colossus comes to us with his scale of performances. At the bottom, you're going to have Cello Chick, and up the top, you're going to have Hype Guy.
Yeah, OG and Hype Guy is like one of the best things, like, about this, like all the semi-finals and stuff.
But yeah.
Do us up a tier list.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, well, that's my skill. I can come up with the official, like, League of Legends performance thing. What do you guys think of the presentation, the actual, all the stuff around?
I thought the build-up was quite good. I thought because they're doing this drum thing where I'm like, okay, so there's drums.
Yep.
All right, that's cool. They're in Korea. This is probably like a local thing that they do, and this is like a grand spectacle that they want to do. It's like, okay, well, this is cool. And then it slowly built up, and then went into the Warriors song, and I thought, okay, it was a really cool transition. I was actually really, really, really hoping that they'd have Jean Londe, or one of the Pentakill songs being performed.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, but Warriors is good too. Yeah.
They missed an opportunity. Cello Chick could have come back.
Yeah, she could have. She's metal. Come on.
Well, I don't know. The audio was a little bit funky on the stream.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was just wondering if it was my headset, because I remember somebody saying, if you're not listening to this on, like, whatever headsets you mentioned, you're really missing out. So I was just thinking, okay, this audio quality is crap. I can barely hear anything. I just kind of hear a bit of bass, and it's just otherwise muddled. But
no, okay. I had it cranked on the TV, so
yeah. Okay.
I was trying to have a conversation with guys on TeamSpeak and match the sound of that, and every 5 minutes I was playing around with the sound volume because it was just annoying me. But no, the sound wasn't huge, but then again, like you mentioned, that's obviously constraints of playing in such a large stadium.
Yep.
But where do they go from here? Like, if they've had audio issues with something like that, maybe they can try and fix the audio issues, but they can only go from here to a bigger stadium. That's the trouble. So, what do they do?
Totally lip syncing. That's how you do it.
Yeah. They get a backing tape.
The Britney Spears style.
They'll get Milli Vanilli to come and play the next year's World's song.
Well, they had like
For those of you who actually know who Milli Vanilli is.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
did
know.
we get Vanilla Ice?
No, I've seen Vanilla Ice. I'll tell you my story about seeing Vanilla Ice later. But
Unless that's the Go Ninja Go song from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and has Shanna Carly, Lee Sin kind of cosplay.
Yeah, that'd be alright.
Otherwise,
Lee
no,
Sin?
no
Did you just say Lee Sin in the
Yeah,
same thing as Ninja?
Oh, well, he's not a ninja, is he? But he's
a
You
monk.
fail, Steve. You fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking Zed. The name escaped me.
I mean, I think if you want to go for a bigger stadium, I mean, I suspect some of it's got to do with the fact that it was in South Korea. You could have a 40,000 people turn up for an event that big because it's South Korea and esports is much bigger. I mean, I'd imagine that the next Worlds will be in Europe because it's been 4 years and it's been in NA twice. They went to Shanghai for All Stars and they went to Korea for Worlds.
2015.
Yeah, well, it could be that. Could be that. Maybe they can have the pre-show on the steps of the Sydney Opera House. That'd be awesome.
That would be amazing.
But I think Worlds will be in Europe next year, and I reckon they'll have All Stars probably in maybe Shanghai again. So yeah, I mean, I think it's probably likely to be in Europe, and then you could probably go to something like, I mean, heck, Wembley Stadium is probably one of the biggest stadiums in the world. Maybe they could go for that. That'd be awesome. Yeah. I mean, overall, I think it's good.
Is the lead up to it, the groups and the finals and whatnot? You can host that around in a bunch of different countries, and that works in Europe.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Because you can get it on a train and go to the next country, unlike Singapore and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I reckon that could work.
Yeah. Well, aside from the live performances, which feels very WrestleMania to me, like, I'm not sure if you guys are wrestling fans or not, but, like, if you watch, like, the older WrestleManias, or even the current ones, they'll have, like, okay, people are here to watch wrestling, they're here to watch, people do body slams and jump off ladders and all that sort of stuff. But in the WrestleMania, like, events, they'd always have, like, a live performance. And, like, Limp Bizkit will come out and do Rollin' for The Undertaker or whatever. And it always felt a little weird and out of place. You're like, well, don't get me wrong, I like the song, but I'm not really into live music, Like, it's a different target audience. So, I don't know, like, because there's some things that league stream viewers, league fans, they're all very much into. You could use, like, the stick figure fight scenes and, like, the Demacia versus Noxus, This Is War, like, almost everyone who's seen those sort of things has just gone, like, oh, yeah, they've got that kind of enthusiasm. But when it comes to live music, that might not necessarily be the type of music that the viewers want or the live audience wants or anything like that. So it's always hard with that kind of stuff. You just throwing it out there and hoping that it goes well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works. Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think previous years, like, it's been fine. I mean, I think the music's better than the, like, having Donkey and Stick Figure Spotlight. I mean, the Stick Figure Spotlight was pretty amazing, because they're just amazing in general. But, I mean, they had, go back to Season 2, it was, like, Donkey and, Stick Figure Spotlight. And, I mean, that's alright, but it's not, like, epic. Where I think the music, I mean, well, certainly last year, where they had, like, sort of essentially, like, a really extended, lengthy musical piece. So, you had the orchestra, and then you had Crystal Method, and then you had Wes Ball and Cello Chick, and it all just and they built upon it.
Not necessarily.
And it really worked. Yeah, I mean, I think it was that wasn't in that order. But I mean, I think if they had Pentakill like in the performance, like that would have just been awesome. But anyway, we should move on. We've spent a while talking about that, but we should move on to CGPL. But any final comments before we move on?
I totally called Samsung White to win.
You're my hero, Steve. You're my hero.
I know. It's good to be reminded, Carrot. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. It's good to be back. My ego is feeling somewhat.
And you met Jessica Nigru recently as well, so like double ego boost thing.
Yes.
All right, CGPL. So last weekend on Saturday would have been a very long Saturday for the guys. We had the CGFL Land Finals. I think the stream went for about 9 hours, so that gives you an indication of how long they were playing for. So we had it was 4 games? Yeah. So they're all the games on the document, right? Yeah, it was. Yeah. So we had Envy versus. I thought Envy played Ava.
Avant-Garde opened the stream.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. I'm looking at that game.
Yeah, it was quarterfinals was Envy versus Ava.
Yeah.
And Chiefs versus Immunity.
Yep. Okay, I'm looking. I'm just getting confused. That's the normal thing. All right, yeah. So game 1, Envy versus Avant-Garde.
That should be in the document. This is the bit where you become confused.
Yeah. I gotta
edited.
Yep, segue. We put it in the stream like a bookmark. So game 1 was Envy versus Avant, which they won 2-0. These are a best of 3, of course. Game 2 was Immunity versus Chiefs, which Chiefs won 2-1. Chiefs versus Avant-Garde was 2-0. That was the final. And third place was Envy versus the sort of third place, fourth place game was Envy versus Immunity, which Immunity won 2-0. So, my first observation in the Envy versus Avant-Garde, I was actually surprised how well Envy came out and played because they, we've been, at least I've been hearing rumors that maybe the team have been broken up and we didn't know what was going on with the Heavens and it seemed to be turmoil in the camp. And they looked, I think Avant looked much better, but not that much better. I think Envy still looked pretty good. And if they're having a bit of turmoil, it obviously isn't affecting them that much, and hopefully they'll be able to sort of get their act together for next year. So I think there was a couple of replacements though. I think Tosis was in the top lane, presumably formerly of Seraphic Nexus, and Voodoo Child. I'm trying to think of the Envy jungler. Going back a
Mattress?
while. Yeah, I think it was actually. So unless Mattress has changed his name, in which case you're a pain in my ass. Please don't do that. As Oceanic players.
There you go. Confirmed by Egypt.
Yeah.
Well, BMA was jungling for them as well at one point. So
okay. Apparently, according to Egypt in the chat, Envy isn't a team anymore. So there you go. They wanted to play for the money.
Which is fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Farewell, Envy. Okay, let's get into the other games of teams that actually still exist. So now we should say at the outset we've got somebody from Team Immunity, which would be Steve, and somebody from AV, which would be Anconius. So I'm going to moderate this fight to the death between the two. Not really.
Put him up, Steve.
What are our thoughts?
I'm a coward.
I'm going to say IM looks the better squad. They look absolutely fantastic.
I know this is controversial, but I agree.
Really have to say I was chatting to Tegon after EB Expo and had an extensive chat with him. He's a fantastic guy. And he said, yeah, they were the only reason they're not at, the only reason, even from watching, they're not at PAX is because of scheduling. They were expected to play against Chiefs at EB Expo and weren't expected to go 3 50-minute games and then run straight into the time they were supposed to start the games of IM versus Direwolves at 12 o'clock. And yeah, that's just how it all worked out. As for coming out of, obviously, CGPL, AV topped the ladder. Envy finished 4th. That's why that matchup happened. And Chiefs finished 2nd. No, Chiefs finished 3rd, actually, from memory. And IM finished 2nd. Is how I think it went down. Don't quote me on that one. Sandman's in the chat; he can tell us. But
CGPL was so ridiculously close.
Wasn't it?
Immunity made it in because of how AV went against. I think it was Envy. They beat Envy 2-0, and if it had been 2-1 or 0-2 in favor of the others, we wouldn't have qualified at all. So that's how close it was. It was, that much. It was so close. The CGPL brackets.
If Envy took a game off AV in the final game of CGPL, IM wouldn't have gotten to regionals either. It would have been Envy going to regionals and not IM, which is that's how close our scene has gotten, which is fantastic.
Well, I mean, it's not such a great look for Immunity to just scrape through, another team, because that's. I mean, having said that, yeah, they did look great at EB Expo, and they looked good in these games. I mean, I think Chiefs. Chiefs actually won. I mean, it's certainly the third game. Chiefs won because they just to quote the great Lord Monty, they just had better rotations. Like they really just, there was a couple of times they caught Immunity on the hop, particularly, and that's how they closed out the game. So if you didn't watch the games, the final drive, like essentially, Immunity were around the Baron, and Chiefs just barreled down mid lane to an open inhibitor, and then as they reached the inhibitor, started to attack the inhibitor, then Immunity came at them, but just they lost two members.
Sides. They came out of their base as well as from behind Chiefs at the same time. That is what screwed them. In the shot calling from that game, Immunity had fantastic shot calling. Chiefs had better rotational calling. That is the difference. That is exactly the difference.
Yeah, well, you'll see if you go back and watch the CGPL games, you'll find that if Immunity won a team fight, they'd very, very rarely be able to get an objective out of it. Yep. Like, where the fights happened, or the health levels of the members involved, like, it never turned into an objective, whereas every time Chiefs won a team fight, they would get an objective and possibly map control to work on the next objective. So the positioning of Chiefs was just absolutely flawless in all of those games, like in all three of the games that's versus us at CGPL, and if you look at the round of 8 back at EB Expo, like if anyone's a fan of Australian esports and they want to watch some really good league games, anything with Chiefs versus Immunity from the last 2 months, almost every single one of those games has just been really, really close. All about the positioning, all about the map objectives, everything. It was the science behind League of Legends, If you want to watch, lots of team fights and everything, like, you can watch almost any game in any region. But in terms of actually mastering the game, Chiefs and Immunity are right at the top. I would say that they're the top 2 teams, even though Immunity keep getting placed 3rd or 4th. So...
Well, if you keep drawing Chiefs at the start of your bracket in the competition, that's always going to make it hard.
There was a great picture of Claire, our mid laner, just kind of like this, like that, and it Snapchatted it with the "Why do we always get Chiefs in the early stages?" Yeah. And that one went around Twitter and Snapchat and a few different places. It was good for a laugh because it's really the case. It really was. Like, we got. At the round of 8, like, if you watch day 1 back at EB Expo, we just absolutely crushed Direwolves. Like, it was just, it wasn't even a competition. Like, they did some nice stuff in the early game laning stages, but when it came to the actual craft behind the game, we just completely dominated them. There was very little chance for them to come back. And then day 2, after we have like the closest game 3 that I've seen in Australia or the Oceanic scene ever. Like, it was such a close game, that game 3. To lose it on that one and then immediately go into the Direwolves when you're crushed, knowing that you're not going to get first place or top seeding or anything like that, and then have Direwolves just stomp all over you and look really sloppy and not do well in picks and bans and everything like that. It's like, oh, come on,
Yeah.
That wasn't an accurate description of the way that Immunity had played throughout that entire tournament. That was really disappointing to watch as well. Like, just how well and how much of themselves that they'd thrown at the game. And it's turning into that. The IM players throw themselves entirely into the game. And it's fantastic to see. It is legitimately the best, I think, team to watch in Oceania, whether they're against Chiefs or whether they're against AV, whether they're against Envy, whether they're against Storm, any team ever. Immunity, I think, are definitely the team to spectate right now.
Carrot, I like this guy. We can have him on any time.
Well, that's coming from an AV guy, too.
Yeah. So let's talk about AV, because I was actually busy all day Saturday because we had a by-election and political stuff I was involved in. So I was totally wrapped up in that all day. So I didn't actually get the chance to see AV. Yeah, I know. Stupid democracy. Come on. So AV versus Chiefs final. Why don't you guys take me through it? Because I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So
neither have I.
Okay.
So.
Well, all right, fine, Stephen.
You can't put this on me, man. I was at the event and I was working with Immunity, and we were dealing with the loss, and we actually went out. We went out for food. and just try and get our heads back in the right zone and everything like that. So
can we keep him, Carrot?
Yeah. So
I
haven't had time to go back and watch the games. I got back in time for game 2. Chiefs were looking pretty on point.
Yep.
It was pretty obvious that they were in control of the game. I don't know what happened in the early stages of the game because we kind of walked in halfway through. But once Chiefs, this is true of them throughout their entire history. Once they've got a lead and once they've got control of the game, they almost never. I can't think of a single time actually. I'm sure they must exist, but they never give up their lead.
I think there's one or two maximum against Little Race or Curse.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah, and these are very, very small, very, very, very rare examples. Chiefs just always perform when they've got control of a game. It's very obvious, like, because the other team will just be feeling powerless to stop them, and like they know how far they can get off getting a single pick or winning a team fight. They know they can get these objectives and this map control and do this rotation, and when they shouldn't, when they should fall back. And in the AV games, they really the game 2 of them versus AV was very much that.
Well, I guess the main example would be Winter Regionals, where they failed to make 12. So that's probably the biggest example of where they didn't get it together. But let's move on to the Auckland Armageddon this weekend. Because we're going to see the return. Well, really, Legacy haven't been around a whole lot. There hasn't been a lot for them to do since going to wildcards. So they're playing this weekend versus Unlimited with your Soul Shao Chuffer versus Avant Garde. So we've seen AVR. It's not AV. Sorry, AVR. That would be
free advertising.
Yeah. Avant played last weekend. They look really good. Chuffer, they've been doing all right. I mean, they've played quite recently where I saw them and I thought they looked pretty good. And Legacy, well, they're the returning champions from Winters. So,
but how much have we seen of Legacy? That's the thing. They've been in hiding, which is fantastic for their pick and ban phase. If they've been working on anything, it's hidden. No one's gonna know except for maybe scrim partners who they've maybe been practicing it against. But they have no tournament play. That's the only worrying thing for me. If Legacy come out, make a strong showing, and obviously don't get nerves, they're looking good. AV, I don't know. Kensti was saying that they just had an extremely bad LAN at CGPL. So I want to see them. I think it's just a little bit for them, because they are still fairly fresh as a team. It's settling issues. But for me, it's definitely AV and Legacy making it out of that group.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, YSSC, they can do well, but I think they are a little bit like a cut below everybody else. Like they're close. I don't know what it would take to get them over the line to being sort of in the top 4 teams, but they're just not quite there. So it'd be
Well, to be fair to them, it's very, very, very close.
Yeah.
If say Legacy, for example, if they had a bad week, that they'd be out of the top 4 and they'd be in. It's that we're really on a knife's edge in the Oceanic.
And going back to earlier in the year when Legacy was still Mind Freak, they weren't quite there either. They were as I've said a number of times, they were very hit and miss. Like they'd have games that look just brilliant, and other games they just look terrible. And then they really kind of got it together. And obviously with the regionals, they just made it count. So
that's it. Well.
Maybe there's one thing.
Legacy is definitely a team that when they are on point, they're unstoppable. Once, not in the same way that Chiefs do. Like Chiefs will, they're very much take an inch. Give them an inch, they'll take a mile. That's Chiefs style. Whereas Legacy are much more. You've given us a mile. We're taking 3 miles. It's a different scale.
We're taking 1.5 now. We'll come back for the other 3.
Like Legacy aren't able to take advantage of the small advantages the way that Chiefs, or I'd even say Immunity are. But when they do have an advantage, they very much know how to use it. They will fight relentlessly. They will pick off exactly who they need. and to do what they need to do to win. And they've been very, very good at that. When they're not in ideal conditions for that, then they've struggled previously. Like they get halfway through the game and I don't know, mentality, isn't quite there for. But who knows? They've been scrimming a ton. They went through the boot camping and everything before. Before wildcard, they've been in international play. I'm looking forward to see them fight. Absolutely.
I really want to see what they've learned from wildcards and how they display it.
Absolutely.
On a land phase, because there's only Chiefs that have that experience, really. So it's I'm definitely keen to see what they brought back and bring to a land phase, because we've only seen on land tournaments, and we've also seen them a little bit hampered by obviously schedules that have been clashing, both with Carbon a little bit with his work schedule, and obviously Choose going through year 12. So that happens. I think that more than anything, that's why we didn't see them at CGPL LAN.
Yeah.
So for me, I think they're definitely them. I mean, I said AV and Legacy are going to make it out of that group, but I think both of those teams are the teams to watch, because if something funky is going to happen, it's going to be more likely that team or one of those two teams having an off day. Just something random happening to them, and they just have an off day, and more than the other teams. No offense to your Social Chuffer and Unlimited, but that's how your Social Chuffer or Unlimited could potentially make it to packs.
Yeah, it's as easy as something like Legacy or AV picking the wrong champion in picks and bans. Like, okay, they've got that, we've picked this, and then they got counter-picked hard, or their team composition just doesn't quite fit, like running Singed and Fizz, for example.
Yeah, don't do that this weekend, guys.
Don't do that. Synergy people. Yeah, if a mistake like that is made, that can be enough to break someone mentally. Like, if this happens in game 1 or game 2, it can mess you up for the entire series. So, but
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, and of course, PAX is only 2 weeks away, so...
So it's actually time to think about matchups for PAX as well, because whoever loses the grand final from Auckland Armageddon faces Chiefs.
Yep. So it's not immunity, alas. Sorry, Steve. You didn't make it. And Direwolves will face off who's winning. So presumably Direwolves is going to face Legacy, and Avant will face Chiefs. I mean, going on, I guess... I mean, it's hard to say.
Form?
Yeah, going on previous form. I mean, it's... I would say it's safe to say, but I think that's probably the way it'll work out. But I guess it depends on Legacy.
I think it could really go either way that way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be bold enough to make a prediction there. I'd say Chiefs is looking the strongest, so they're going to finish top. That's...
Yep.
But apart from that, every other position could go either way, I think.
All right, cool. Well, I think we talked about that. So yeah, we'll be talking again about this obviously again next week when we've got the final confirmed lineups. And yeah, I was thinking of going to PAX, but I may not actually get there in the end. So, but I know Steve will be there.
What?
I know. Well, I need to get the money together. That's the main thing.
I can give you a place to stay if you're desperate.
Cool. Well. All right. Let's. I've put on the agenda, and this hopefully I don't know how much of this Steve has actually read, but we've got the initial PBE changes for next season. Now, Steve, have you had a chance to look at these?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh! Okay.
That wasn't there when I looked at the document earlier. Did you
been
add that?
No, it's been there the whole time.
It has been there the whole time.
Okay, well let's.
I've had a look at a couple of the proposed. Oh wow, this is just a wall of text. This is horrible. I heard about some of the changes, and then here we go. It's just loading the formatting. What a weird way to format your website. What the hell?
Change Ralph's picture because he's now confused like you, Steve, about all the changes. Well, how about Scott and I talk about them, and you can catch up. You can find a couple of things you like, and then we'll.
I'll just comment on stuff you guys talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So, if you haven't, I'll put the notes in the Twitch chat as well. But
I think the major thing here to point out is probably the buff duration nerfs.
Okay.
150 seconds on both buffs down to 120. That said, blue buff is not getting any bonus effects at the moment. Again, everything all in motion as everything goes on. But red buff is being changed up a little bit. Obviously being reduced to that 120 seconds down from 150. Grants you 1% of your maximum health every 5 seconds. Slow reduction down to 5 to 10% for melee and 8 to 15% for ranged. Oh no, wait, sorry. Wait, slow reduced to 5 to 10% from 8 to 15% for ranged. Yep. And melee characters it's down to 5 to 15% from 8 to 24%. I had that the wrong way around. Burn damage rescaled to 5 to 56 damage per second from 10 to 44. So early on, red buff isn't going to have as much of an impact in the true damage phase. And burn damage now applies to towers, which is the interesting thing. And if this does follow through, I see Caitlyn being very, very strong and donating a lot of red buffs early on to try and help that siege and help her get to that phase of the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is obviously something they wanted to tackle last season, so they were talking about changing Baron buff to be like a tower pushing thing, which didn't work out. I guess now they're probably having a second bite of the cherry. They're going to actually see what they can do. So I'll be interested to see. Well, I mean, they have changed Baron buff actually. So so let's just talk about buff. So they've got.
You remember when we were talking about that about this time last year?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So you get empowered recall, which is cool, but the health and mana regeneration is gone. Health and mana regeneration is gone. And then you buff your minions. So I actually quite like that. I think it's, it actually means that there's less snowball because teams are not quite. I mean, they've obviously got the bonus AP and AD still, but they're not as resilient. And I think that's a real issue in a siege situation where you can't poke them down. Like they can poke you down endlessly, or they can take you down with all the bonus damage they get, but you can't actually stop them at all because if you have to go back to the fountain to heal up again, they're just going to regenerate so quickly on their own that they just push you over. So I quite like where they're going with these buffs and how they're sort of tweaking them to kind of focus them on sieging. And to sort of take them away from sort of really heavy snowball effects, which is quite good. And I think, for me, the biggest change is the dragon changes. So the global gold is now gone. The bonus XP is reduced. The dragon now actually hurts you more, for the amount of dragons you've taken. So I think that's going to be a huge impact. And then you get these Dragon Slayer buffs. Change. Yeah, the Dragon Slayer buff is what interests me the most. So on stack 1 you get increased regeneration. Stack 2, so every time you kill the dragon you get a stack on your team. Stack 1 is regeneration. Stack 2 is bonus AD and AP. Stack 3 is increased movement speed. Stack 4 is increased health, and Stack 5 triples all the bonuses. Ooh. So it's one of those things that I think the early snowball effects of that gold are much heavily reduced because bonus regeneration. I mean, it's nice, but it's not necessarily going to completely change the lane dynamics. I mean, I think across the length of the game it will, but it's not until you start to get into sort of stack 2 and 3 where it actually really starts to kick in. So now you're talking about after the 20 or around the 20-minute mark, I guess you're going to be sort of looking at the dragons making a big impact.
Can I just say that this change quite clearly is the European fix.
Congratulations, Europe! You have been fixed.
Yeah, that's right. Because we're buffing Europe in the next patch. Yeah. If you want to draw the game out and just focus completely on map control, even though you could have won this game 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is a way where we are forcing you to win the game just by pure stat, increased movement speed, increase AD, AP, increased health, increased regeneration. You'll be able to just. It'll be almost impossible for you to fail a siege after your 5th dragon.
Yeah.
If you're that far ahead. If you've gotten 5 dragons, think about that. How late in the game does that need to be? Let's just assume.
Well, 6 minutes each, so it's at least 30. Well, it's going to be at least 31 minutes if you get dragon as soon as it spawns. So we're probably talking about the 40-minute mark. So
yeah, exactly. And if you look at all of these stats, regen, AD, movement speed, health, like all of these are really good when it comes to sieging. And also there's a whole bunch of other bonus to siege things. So, like I noticed that there's new elixirs that help in siege. So it's really making it kind of impossible for like the European style of dragging the game out until you're 100% certain you're going to win by making it easier to win through that method. So,
well, just thinking back to earlier this year, I can't remember exactly which event it was. I think it might have been one of the qualifying events for Winters or maybe. But anyway, with NV, we talked about this a lot. NV were actually ahead quite a bit, and they couldn't close out the game. They just couldn't. Every time they got pushed back from the tower, they'd go recall.
The ARAM match,
The NV versus YSSC.
Yeah, I think it was that.
What was it? 2.5 hour exclusive. This is the what is it? I've forgotten his name now. 80 carry for YSSC.
Denian?
Denian, Denian show.
Yeah.
You're seeing the Denian show on repeat for the next 2.5 hours.
So where they couldn't close out the game because they couldn't get to the towers. Where if you imagine you've got 5 stacks of dragon.
Let me correct you there. They couldn't finish the game because they didn't know how to push a side lane.
Well, that as well. But they just couldn't see. They just weren't sieging properly. Like they just completely whiffed their sieges. And even though they had Baron buff, they just screwed it. It's just substantially. Like there's no other way. Where they
just stood in front of the tower and waved.
Yeah, they did. It's just like, hi guys, what are you doing? Yeah, but now you've got the 5 stacks of dragon, and you imagine, you got triple these bonuses. You've got Baron buff, which buffs all your minions. Melee minions, 80% damage reduction from almost all damage types. That's insane. Your melee minions are going to last forever. Range minions, increase damage and minor increase in range. Siege minions gain massive increases to range, such as they outrange towers. Like, they do AoE damage to towers, and then the super minions is like a bonus move speed and attack damage, like attack speed. Like, with all these things, there is no way you cannot close out a game.
I just want to say that, like, these dragon changes specifically, I really want to see Mundo get 5 dragons. Like, I don't care what the team composition, increase health and health regen, AD and AP, of which he uses both, movement speed, which he uses great, triple that. And just watch Mundo go wherever he pleases. Like, whatever, I'll take these 8 turret shots. I'm building a Warmogs.
But what's interesting is that if you can stop them getting from that 5th stack, then you're probably still going to be able to team fight them, because they're not. I mean, if you think about it, you've got 4 dragons, you would have snowballed so hard that you'd just have this massive item lead, massive experience lead. You just won't be able to fight them. Where this, you kind of think, well, you can even fight them at dragon, because dragons are now doing a lot more damage. It deals 20% increased damage to units for every dragon their team is. So 80% increased damage by dragon at the 4th stack when they've got their 4th stack. And you do reduce damage to dragon itself. So
they haven't put here that it gets more HP or armor or anything like that. So late, like a 40-minute game, like 35 minutes into the game, if they've got every single dragon so far, they're still going to burn that dragon down almost instantly. So, and if they're not changing how the AI of the dragon works, if you're still able to, go backwards and forwards with your support, then that's not going to be that bigger. Like, it's going to.
But your Goldling won't be as big.
It's going to matter a lot in, with the Jace playstyle, where they're trying to take an objective, but you're just doing enough damage that they don't want to commit to it, so that over a long time the damage stacks up.
I mean, it's one of those things that the gold lead won't be as substantial, though. So, the difference between the teams won't be as big. And they're doing less damage. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if the reduced damage affects Smite. Because that means if you can keep roughly the same level, you can actually outsmite another team because they've got more stacks of dragon than you have, which would be huge. I mean, that essentially, can completely change the dynamic. Because if you can go from the increased radiation to increased AD AP, well, all of a sudden, you're probably looking pretty close to each other. So, I actually think this change to dragon, and we started talking about buffs, but I brought it to dragon. I guess the host prerogative. But I think this, more than anything, completely changes the game. Like, so much of the current strategy revolves around dragon and getting gold from dragon. And this essentially removes all of that and replaces with an entirely new approach.
Well, a lot of the reason the game is that way is because of Korean strategists and coaches. When they came up with when Riot did the changes to the tower, you remember back then when the 4-0 split push was a thing?
Yep.
Because it just became too impossible to do the early laning and everything like that. They had to make Dragon such an appealing early game target and buff the towers to kind of stop that happening, because they didn't feel that it was a very entertaining strategy to watch esports wise. And
it is. It's complete shite. Yeah.
It's something you cannot do in solo queue.
I enjoyed the crap out of it.
Oh, absolutely! High five.
Then
Bam.
you're the only ones. Then everybody else.
It showed very specific methods of minion wave and jungle clearing. You had to know your exact clear times on specific parts of the jungle between two champions, not one, two champions. How you had to trade the tanking of the camps on those two champions to ensure they were optimal health, optimal abilities. They both hit level 2, so you could slam in on that turret when the wave crashed there. You could only do it with specific champions. Go back to that period of time, there were only specific champions that were picked. Shyvana was big for a reason.
Yeah. Well, also...
it still looked like balls, though.
Okay.
It may be impressive mechanically, but it still looks like nuts. They just look like big hairy testicles.
I want to talk a little bit more about it as well, because I love that. Is because if you got outpicked in the bot lane, if you just went, you had such a poor matchup that you were not going to be able to farm for the first 5-10 minutes because, whatever Corky's going to force you out of lane, or, Thresh will grab you and just kill you because you haven't got the escapes. It forced you to pick a certain way if you were going to go into a 2v2 laning situation. Alternatively, the 4-0 split push situation allowed you to choose characters like Ashe or Vayne or Twitch and go into a lane swap situation, so that you didn't need to worry about just the laning phase dictating your team composition. So that was another thing that I really liked about that strategy. And the truth of the matter is that you still can perform that strategy, but you can only do it with certain compositions and against certain compositions.
Elise, and it has to be in a melee. Jinx, Elise, Janna is the best, but you have to do it in a melee.
Well, I think we saw it this week.
And Jax on top of that's really iffy, but you can do it with Jax. Jax is about the best one. It's Jax, Lee Sin,
Well, the top laner generally didn't matter as much in those situations because you were doing it to get around the Renekton Shyvana early game kind of domination. So you're like, you know what? Hang out with the jungler until you're level 3 and then come back and take this tower. That's pretty much it. We're just going to skip that bit of the laning phase that you suck at, and we're going to move on.
Anyway.
All right. Well, we've basically... I think we got to...
derailed a bit.
Yeah, no, it's fine. No, I think we've pretty much done anyway. So we've reached the hour mark. We're definitely going to come back and talk about this more. So...
it's like new items. Like, while you guys have been talking, you've been scrolling through going... Carrot can't possibly expect us to cover all this.
No. I thought we'd start to touch on it.
This is the world's recap episode, the CGPL build-up. Come on, man. We can't fill this in.
I know. I'm going to say we could.
What's this?
The 4v0 memories.
You can customize your jungling items to get AD and lifesteal. Or...
You're behind. He's behind. Cut him off.
That's why it says in the document, first impressions. It's not a complete review. Well, I mean, the main thing is that all these are going to continue to change. And, I mean, if you were to go back and listen to when we first talked about all the changes for Season 4, and you actually look at how many changes didn't make it through, there's actually quite a few things that didn't quite make the cut. So,
like the
can we talk... Just quickly, can we just touch on Zrot Portal, which was the item that allowed you to spawn 3 minions that had run to the closest lane, has been removed from the current build.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting. I think they're going to tweak that. I really want to see something of that note, because it kind of adds Abathur from Heroes of the Storm to League of Legends in an item.
Okay.
So I just like did the Control F to find the item that you were talking about in the document, and Zroth's Portal, like, what is it? Edit, not currently in this build, and then they've crossed out, also no one spells like that.
Yeah.
We are definitely in love with the best gaming company in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, that's pretty much brings us to the end of episode 59. And yeah, if you guys don't have anything to add, I think we'll wrap it up. And any quick shout outs? I mean, Steve, you might have a shout out because I know you've just been traveling and whatnot. So I guess
Or just shout out to all the managers out there of Oceanic esports teams. It's a lot of work doing what we do, especially at the live events. You know, making sure the boys are on time, and taking tons of photos and keeping morale up, and like there's so much stuff that as an analyst I didn't have to do it all. Yeah. Like when I'm just providing, okay, they're running this strategy and this is like, okay, yeah, but when like to add the management stuff on there, it's a lot of work. And no, I caught up with a couple of them. We went out for Korean barbecue with a whole bunch of players and managers. It was really good. Yeah, and to everybody at CGPL, they did like I actually saw. Like, everything was in the one room down there, and they did such amazing things with the amount of resources that they had, so bravo to them. Riot Games for, like, the EB Expo, everything about that was just awesome. Like, not just the event, but the way everything ran backstage was just everything that could have gone wrong was taken care of before it could possibly come up. It was brilliant. Like they've really nailed this whole esports thing. Cool. So yeah,
shout out to all them. Cool. All right. Well, that's been episode 59 of the OzLoL podcast. My name's Carrot Colossus. I've been joined by Steve and Scott, and we're going to be back again next week.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.